Welcome na karibu to UN Sacco, your financial anchor. We have a number of loan products at UN Sacco. Let us now learn the features of our normal loan, which falls under the Bossa credit products. Qualifying amount is 3 times the member's deposits, up to a maximum of 20 million subject to the 1/3 rule. Interest rate of 12% per annum on the reducing balance. Repayment period of 60 months subject to the current employment contract. Maximum number restricted to 2 normal loans or 1 normal and 1 premier or loyalty loan. The loan security is members' owns and guarantors' deposits. Members borrowing within the deposits get the maximum repayment period regardless of the contract period. Now you know more about our normal loan product. Visit us at UN Sacco Building, United Nations Complex, United Nations Avenue off Limuru Road, and check out our website on www.unsacco.org. UN Sacco, your financial anchor.
Your financial anchor. UN Sacco.
Welcome na karibu to UN Sacco, your financial anchor. We have a number of loan products at UN Sacco. Let us now learn the features of our normal loan, which falls under the Bossa credit products. Qualifying amount is 3 times the member's deposits, up to a maximum of 20 million, subject to the 1/3 rule. Interest rate of 12% per annum on the reducing balance. Repayment period of 60 months, subject to the current employment contract. Maximum number restricted to 2 normal loans or 1 normal and 1 premier or loyalty loan. The loan security is members' owns and guarantors' deposits. Members borrowing within the deposits get the maximum repayment period regardless of the contract period. Now you know more about our normal loan product. Visit us at UN Sacco Building, United Nations Complex, United Nations Avenue off Limuru Road, and check out our website on www.unsacco.org. UN Sacco, your financial anchor.
Your financial anchor.
Assumpta. So nikiweka on mic na stahili kujiona pana.
So switch off.
Ndio hiyo, wacha tuone kama itakuja.
Unataka kujiona kwa YouTube?
Eh. Iko live kweli?
Kamleo mimi ninaenda nakaa.
Haikai live. Una YouTube nilikuwa ndio hiyo imekaa.
Unajua. Yaani uko kwa YouTube sasa, nienda kwa internet nikuone.
bless you.
So that when this guy stands up,
Good afternoon, colleagues. For those who are outside, can you come in? We start, please. Our sincere apology for the delay, but we want to start. Good afternoon once again. Once again, I'm sorry for having started all this late, but our visa has just arrived. I think it's now time for us to start. I will ask a volunteer to come and open for us Education Day with a word of prayer. Anyone who is feeling blessed enough to start us with a word of prayer? Okay.
Let's believe and pray. Almighty Father, who art in heaven, we come before you this afternoon. We ask for your protection and guide us during this session, Father. Father, for whoever is going to lead us through this session, give him the intelligence to guide us through, Father. Father, for those who are still on the way coming here, I ask you, Father, may you give them journey mercies, and as we shall be going home, protect us, Father. I pray this prayer believing in the name of the Lord and Father who art in heaven. Amen.
Thank you very much. I think I will start by first officially apologizing for having been 15 minutes. Now it's 25 minutes late. I'm sorry for that. I will now take this opportunity to do introduction. I know all our honorable members might not have a chance to say their names where they are, but you are feel welcome and feel at home. I'll start by introducing the directors who are around. First, maybe to register apology from our chair, who is on official travel and is not able to be with us today. But with us, we have our Vice Chair and able acting Chair, Madam Wangeshi.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Next to her is Director Julius Kipkoech, Cheriot.
Good afternoon, colleagues.
From the membership, I can see our Treasurer, Mr. Gabriel Wanga. And as the MC, I'm a director with the SACCO, and this program is organized by the Business and Development Committee, which I'm a member of, and my two fellow co-directors up here. So my name is Dixon Aduo, and I'll be taking this opportunity to be your MC for the day. With us, representing the Secretariat, is Madam Evelyn Olunja. And I will be introducing the special guest of the day later in the program. So, as we know, this is a special day which is part and parcel of the cooperative movement. Education of membership is key to every institution. And this is why every year we come together to talk and discuss and learn more. We might be making money and we might not know how to use it well or how to keep it well. We are not experts in money matters. I know we are professionals from different backgrounds. So this is an opportunity for us to learn, to understand, engage, and discuss much more on what we need to do to make the institution better. Without much ado, I'll be glad to call our guest of the day. Our guest of the day is called Manyara Kirago. He's a personal financial coach and a trainer. He has helped Kenya professionals dramatically in terms of improving the financial life. He is the managing director of a company called Financial Counseling. It's Kenya's premier financial coaching and service provider. Manyara has personally conducted personal finance training in many blue chip organizations, including Safaricom, Citibank, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Bamburi Cement, Unilever, BAT, amongst others. He also runs Money Skills course, an online personal finance course for individuals. Do Well, a Bible-based personal finance training program. Manyara also does one-on-one financial coaching. On his academic, he's a graduate of Boston University Financial Planning Program and the College for Financial Planning in Denver, Colorado, USA. And is a registered financial consultant and chartered mutual funds counselor, professional designation. Manyara has been a long-time newspaper financial columnist and has been quoted in numerous personal finance articles. He has also been interviewed many times in all the major television stations in Kenya. Manyara is the author of the book, How to Become Lifelong Financial Success. Finally, Manyara is a committed Christian and a member of St. Andrew's Church, Nairobi, where he is the executive secretary of the Presbyterian Christian Men's Fellowship. He is a family man with a wife and 4 beautiful children. With that, I welcome Mr. Manyara to take us through the topic of the day. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here, but I'm feeling a bit cold. Why? Because people are so far. I don't know what you're going to do about that. Is there anything we can do? Please, come nearer. Or if you want me to come down there, I will. Believe you me. Is there a lapel mic? Oh. Please, thank you very much. Let me get my. Okay. Once again, good afternoon. My name is Manyara Kirago, as you've heard. And I've come here with my colleague Brenda Now, you may hear stories about me. You may hear that I love talking about money. And I do, because everywhere I go, every day I talk about money. But you may also hear that I talk about money because I love money. Now, that's a rumor. That's not true. That's fake news. So, my name is Manyara Kirago. I am a personal financial planner and coach. That simply means that I work with people to help them manage their money better so they can live a better life. Whatever it is that you earn, I help you learn how you can manage it better so you can achieve more and live a better life. Now let me see if this is working. What's still doing? Now, before I start, I've said a lot about myself. There's something I would like to say about you, that you are in the right place, but only if this applies. You are in the right place if you want to enjoy greater financial success. You want to achieve more things in your life with your money. You want to maybe buy a house or maybe finish off your loans. You want to make sure that your children get a good education. And you want to eventually retire financially successful. If that is you, then you are in the right place. You are also in the right place if maybe you've got too many debts and you want to get rid of some of them or all of them. Do you want to be debt-free? If you do, then you're in the right place. You are also in the right place if you want to become independent of being tied to a job. Wouldn't you like to work simply because you enjoy your work and not because you're forced to in order to put food on the table? If that is you, then you're in the right place. But you're especially in the right place if you want money to become a blessing in your life to the glory of God. If that is you, you are in the right place. So, out of you who are here, how many are in the right place? Let me see by a show of hands. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. And because of that, as I start, I would like to make you one promise. And that promise is this. What we're talking about today, about finances, is a very wide topic. And it is virtually impossible to cover it in the little time that we have. But my promise to you is that before I finish, I will let anybody who wants to escalate it, anybody who wants to implement these things, anybody who wants to move to the next step, I will show them how they can do that. Is it fair enough? Okay, so that's my promise to you, and I will keep it. Now, life is said to be like a journey. This journey of life can be a rich and rewarding experience where you have a good job, you have a family that you are able to take care of. If you have children, you are able to educate them comfortably. You live in a good, comfortable house, drive a nice car, and eventually, when you're an older person, you end up retiring financially independent, a solid and respectable pillar of the society. Now, that's how life should be. Unfortunately, for too many of us, it doesn't quite go like that. For too many of us, even surviving through the month is a challenge. Maybe payday is around 24th, 26th, thereabouts. For too many of us, by the 10th of the month, mnaanza kulia mwezi iko wapi? Mwezi iko kona. Actually, I know for some people, even before the beginning of the next month, things are already thick. For too many people, if they have children, educating these kids becomes a challenge, and especially when now they begin to go to college. For too many people, buying a home is a challenge. But that's not the saddest thing about the whole situation. The saddest thing is this. For too many of us, in spite of having worked many, many years and earning a respectable income, too many of us end up with nothing. Even worse, too many of us end up actually poor, unable even to take care of themselves. Too many of us end up dependent on our children. That's the reality of the situation. There are two people who I've known in my life that I like to tell their story as an illustration of what happens to a lot of people. Does it work? Yes. I like to tell their story. Thank you. I like to tell their story because it illustrates what happens to many people. The first of these two people was actually born in a well-off family. This person got a very good education, and as a result, ended up working in a place where he was earning quite a lot of money. In fact, he was a professional, a very highly paid professional. Now, during the days when this man was working, he used to live a very lavish lifestyle, always driving big, expensive cars. Every weekend, he would be hosting his friends or taking them out of town trips. He used to dress very expensively. That man was living a very lavish lifestyle, holidays abroad, name it. That's the life he was living. Fast forward to when this man eventually retired, or eventually the job came to an end. Within a very short time, this man found himself being forced to go back to the village where he had originally come from after living in the city for almost 40 years. He was forced to go back to the village where he originally came from. And he was not going there to retire a respectable retirement. No, he was going there to struggle. Because in the end, he was washing cars. Just picture that. That man who used to drive very big, expensive cars, ending up washing other people's cars in a small town up country. That was a man with nothing to celebrate about how his life had gone. The second man was born in a very poor family. In fact, this is how the first man ended up. Okay, he was not a watchman, but he was a car washer, which is just as bad. He ended up as a poverty-stricken retiree. The second man was born in a very poor family. In fact, so poor that they could not afford to educate him past standard 4, because those days, even primary school education, you had to pay. So, this man, when he grew up, the best he could manage was working as a farmhand. He used to go to people's farms, and he would be told, okay, dig here. He would dig. In the evening, he would be paid his money. But this guy did something that was different from his colleagues. Every time he was paid, he made sure that he didn't spend all that money. He was paid very little, but he forced himself to save some of it. So if he was paid 200 bob, he would make sure 30 bob, 40 bob, 50 bob he puts away, he puts aside, and he doesn't spend it. It was very difficult for him, because by now he had a family who he had to feed. But he forced himself. A few years went by, and the man had accumulated enough to go to the slaughterhouse and buy matumbo. First he bought a bike, and then he went to the slaughterhouse and bought matumbo. He loaded the matumbo, put the matumbo in a gunia and put it on the bicycle, and then he pushed the bicycle around to the butcheries, selling matumbo to the butchers. Now, he was earning slightly more than he was earning when he was in the farm. But he still maintained the way he managed that income. He still saved some of it. After a few years, he had saved enough to open a small butchery, wooden butchery. His income increased again. He continued to save. Throughout his life, this man always made sure that he saved part of what he earned. By the end, By the time he passed away, which was about 20 years ago now, it's quite some time back, this man was a billionaire. Now, these two people are real people right here in Kenya. And the main difference between them is that one of them, although he was very well educated and he was earning a lot of money and he was very intelligent, he ignored the principles of financial management. The second man, although semi-literate, although earning very little in the beginning, he followed the principles of financial management. And that's how it's going to be with each and every person sitting here today. It is not how educated you are. It is not how clever you are. It's not even how smart you are. It's not even how big your salary is. What will determine where you end up is whether or not you follow the principles of personal financial management. And that, my friends, is what we are going to look at today. The principles of personal financial management. So the poor person ended up as a wealthy investor. Move on to the next one, please. So, the principles of financial management. They are very, very simple, and anybody can understand them, and anybody can implement them, no matter what your level of education, no matter how your level of income. And I use a framework which is very easy to understand and very easy to remember. The first pillar of that of financial success, I call them pillars of financial success. The first pillar is you must know your current financial position. You must know where you are today. Because if you do not know where you are, how can you even start planning how to improve? How can you even know if you have improved or if you've deteriorated? It is critical that you know where you are first before you start planning your finances. That's the first step. The second pillar of financial success is you need to have a set of smart financial goals. If you don't have goals, you're just like a dead fish floating down the river. And as you well know, a dead fish floating down the river has no control over what happens. It just goes with the current. If you want to take charge of your life, you need to have SMART goals. SMART is an acronym which I will explain what it means. That's the second pillar of financial success. The third pillar of financial success is you must manage cash flow. Every month, money flows into your life because you get a salary. And then, because you need to live, you need to pay your bills, it begins to flow out. This is what we call cash flow. And you must learn how to manage it so that at the end of the day, you have something left. It's not how much you earn. It is whether or not you know how to manage it. There are some people who earn a lot of money, and yet managing it, they don't know how to manage it, so they end up with nothing in the end. So cash flow management is critical. Without managing your income, no matter how big your income becomes, you will not get anywhere. The fourth pillar of financial success is goal-oriented investing. If you just save money, you will not get very far because there is something that's called inflation, and inflation will eat away at the purchasing power of your money. In order to achieve your goals, what you need to do is save some money and then invest it. And then it will grow and it will enable you to achieve those goals you've set for yourself, and it will enable you to improve your financial position. Goal-oriented investing is critical for your success. Now, even if you're investing, you're saving and you're investing, there are some things which can happen in your life that can wipe away all that hard work. The kind of thing I mean is an illness in the family or an accident or something that might require you to spend all the money which you've been saving. To prevent that from derailing your financial plans, you need to put risk management in place so that you are able now to protect yourself. And then finally, implementation. This information is very important and it's good to know. However, it is totally useless if not implemented. And that's usually a big problem with a lot of people. They know all these things, but they don't practice. So if you know it and you don't practice, then you won't get anywhere. So in order to improve your financial situation and achieve your goals, you need to implement these things. So these are the 6 pillars of financial success. If you put them in place in your life, you'll find that your financial situation begins to improve, and it will continue to improve, and you'll eventually end up financially independent. It is that simple. However, in practice, there are lots more, there are very many moving parts. Let's start with the first pillar of financial success, and that is your financial position. Can I ask you, how do you determine your financial position? How do you know where you are financially? What do you look at to know whether you're doing well or whether you're doing poorly? What do you look at? How do you know whether you're doing poorly or doing badly or doing well? Somebody can venture an answer? Yes? Assets versus liabilities. Assets such as, give me an example. Yes. Okay. Okay, almost correct. Almost correct. Very, very close to the correct answer. Actually, when he said assets and liabilities, that is the correct answer. To determine a financial position, you don't do what most people do. Most people think the bigger their car, the better off they are. True or not? Most people think the more expensive their house is, the better off they are. The better schools their kids are going, the better off they are. The more holidays they go to, they think they are better off. But that is not correct, my friends. What shows your financial position is something called net worth. Net worth. Not how much you earn, but your net worth. And net worth, you calculate it by adding what our friend there has said. Adding up all your assets. Now, assets include anything that you own. First, you have money in the bank. Then, you have money in the circle. Then, you maybe have a house. You write down the value of that house. Maybe you own a car, the value of that car. Now, that's where I was telling you, you're almost correct. Now, a car, we'll discuss a bit more about it, and I'll tell you where slightly it was not very correct. But a car is an asset because it has value. An asset is anything with a financial value. Whether or not it's bringing in money or not, it's an asset. On the other hand, after that, we add up the debts. There's a second step of that equation. Debts include any bank loans you may be having, any circle loans you may be having. Is there anybody here with an M-Shwari loan? I don't think so. I don't think so. Pana. Any money which you owe, including that money we owe that friend of yours. You know that friend who keeps calling you and you ignore his calls? Huyo. You add up all the debts that you have, including your mortgage balance if you have a mortgage. There's a second step of that calculation. The third step is you subtract the debts from the assets. You subtract the debts from the assets. The answer is net worth. Now, that net worth is the sum total of all the financial decisions you have made to date. Now, if you have been making good decisions, you will find that it will tend to be higher. If you have been making poor decisions, it will be low. It could even be negative. There are some people who have worked for 20, 30 years, earning a lot of money every month, but their net worth is negative. Why? They have not been managing their finances properly. The longer you've been working, the higher your net worth should be. Whenever you hear them saying Bill Gates is the second richest man in the world, or so-and-so is the third richest, how do they know? They have calculated the net worth. As simple as that. There are no two ways about it. It's the net worth. It is not the number of cars you have. Me, I hear people saying, oh, so-and-so is so rich, he's got 5 cars. Rubbish. How do you know his debts? Maybe he's got twice as many debts, isn't it? It's not the assets alone. It's not the debts alone. It's assets minus liabilities. So that's one very key thing to understand. Now, when you look at that statement, it's called a net worth statement, that list of assets and liabilities and net worth. It's called a net worth statement. It is very important to be able to understand what each part means. When you come to the assets, you should divide it into 3 types of assets. Asset group number 1 is called cash assets. Cash assets is any money which you can access quickly. Do you have a FOSA? You do, eh? The FOSA, if you wanted money, can you withdraw immediately? Good. So the FOSA belongs to the cash asset group. If you have a bank account, it belongs to the cash asset group. Any money which you can get quickly. And it's important to have such money because that is where you go when you have an emergency. And we need to have an emergency fund. That's one of the key things which most Kenyans don't practice. And because of that, we suffer so much. We undergo so much stress because we don't have money for emergency. So when something unexpected happens, we are so stressed. We have to run to the Shylocks, to run to Mshwari. By the way, Mshwari is another Shylock. Because we don't have money for emergencies. You must have some money when we will discuss how much you need. So all that belongs to the first group of assets called cash assets. The second group of assets is called invested assets. Now, those assets which our gentleman friend here was mentioning, the apartments and such, that is an investment. What other kind of investments could you be having? Sorry? Oh, cars. What kind of car? What is it doing? Yes, specifically that. Not the one you're driving. Not the one you're driving. If you have put it Uber to a taxi or boda boda or whatever, that is in fact, any kind of business which you have is an asset, an invested asset. Okay, what other kind of invested asset could you be having? We have said rental house, we have said business. Which other invested asset? A fixed bank account, like a bank fixed account in the bank? Yes. Treasury bills? Yes. Unit trust? Yes. Any other? Land? Okay. Now, land here, there is a qualification. If you have a plot of land which you are planning to build your house, that should not be counted in that class of invested assets. It should be counted in the next group which we'll be talking about. But if you have a plot which you have bought so that to build rental property or to speculate so that it increases in value, you sell it and you make money, that is okay. That is an invested asset. Okay, any other invested asset? Sorry? SACCO, yes. I was wondering, I was thinking that's the first one you would have said. Yeah, see, your SACCO members, your SACCO contribution. By the way, there is one mistake which many SACCO members, in fact, most SACCO members make, which almost negates the whole idea of being in a SACCO. One mistake, one big mistake. We will talk about that later. No, not now, later. So, your SACCO is an investment because it pays your dividend. Does anybody have a pension plan? There's money in your pension, isn't there? That's an investment. Yes? Tell me what do you mean? does it earn a return?
Depends.
If it earns a return, and then it is an investment. Yeah. If you're just putting money aside without a return, then that question might be there. Is it an investment or not? But if it earns a return, which I believe it does, otherwise they would not just keep money somewhere without earning a return. So that's an investment. So you add up all the investment. Now, one thing about investments, which most people don't realize, is that investments are the key to your financial security. Listen to that again. Investments are the key to your financial security, not your salary. It's investments. Salary can disappear at any time. But if you have investments, they can take care of you. So the whole idea is, as you're going along, you accumulate investments so that eventually you can live off your investments even if the salary comes to an end. And being able to live off your investments, that is the definition of financial independence. So it is investments. So if you are sitting here, remember like that man who I told you used to live very lavishly and all that? His mistake is when he was earning that high salary, he never bought investments. He never invested. So when the job came to an end, he also came into trouble. If you don't have investments, the minute or the day your job comes to an end is when hell on earth begins. Hell on earth begins the day your job ends and you don't have investments. So it is critical, much more important than buying nice things, nice clothes, nice cars. It is much more important to invest. Much, much more important to invest. Right? So investments are the key to your financial success. Now, the third group of assets is called personal use assets. Now, this is the group which puts a lot of people in trouble, because this is where you have your furniture in the house, your nice clothes, your cars, and your house. The house is the only appreciating personal use asset. It is the only one which increases in value and makes you richer as you go along. These other personal use assets, they are all depreciating assets. They cost you money to buy. Some cost you money to maintain. And the value is always going down. Cars are especially dangerous. Why? Because people love cars. People love having a nice car. Oh, did you see? Man, amenunua gari ingine. Wow. It's nice to have that car. But if you don't have investments, guess who the joke is on? The joke is on you eventually. Because that car will make you spend money to pay for it. It will make you pay money to maintain it. And not only that, its value is going down. In the end, it's nothing. That guy who I was saying used to live a lavish lifestyle, that's exactly how he went through his life. He used to upgrade his car every 3 years, always having a brand new car. Actually, he was a guy I used to admire a lot, because he was actually my cousin, and I hope I don't have any relatives here. I used to admire him. He was much older than me. I was in my teenage and he was in his 30s. But I used to admire him. Why? Of course, with my teenage mentality, I used to think this guy is cool. He was always so nicely dressed. He was always having a good car, a nice car. And he was a very friendly guy. He was always having buddies around him. But one of the main reasons why I used to admire him most is because he always seemed to have the most beautiful girls. In the end, he was a pitiful sight. He was drinking changa. All those nice cars, all those nice clothes, all those nice holidays were just memories, regrettable memories. Don't be like him. Why? Because he did not invest. He spent all his money on depreciating personal use assets. He did not even buy his house. The house is the only appreciating personal use asset. He did not buy a house. He just bought nice cars, and he spent his money on drinks and good life. So that is how you look at the assets. Now, when you come to looking at the debts, here it is really critical to understand that there are two types of debts. One debt is called good debt. The other debt is called bad debt, obvious. But how do you determine what is a good debt, what is a bad debt? A good debt is any money which you have borrowed that you have used to buy something that's appreciating. For instance, you've taken that circle loan and you have bought a plot in a growing neighborhood. That is a good debt because the value of the plot is increasing and you're paying off the debt. Another good debt is you have borrowed money and you have paid for a course which will increase your skills to enable you to earn a better income. That's also a good debt. The third kind of good debt is you have borrowed money and you have used that money to finance a viable business. Mark you, the emphasis is on viable, not any kind of business. That's also a good debt. You must make sure as much as possible that your debts are good debts. Your debts, as much as possible, they should be good debts. And that is one good thing that the circle can help you do. It can help give you good debts. But only you can make them good debts because you can borrow and use whichever you want, but if you use it properly, it will build you. Good debts build you. But bad debts destroy you. Bad debts waste your life. Because all your life you'll be working, earning a lot of money, paying off debts for which are not any good for you. So make sure your debts are good debts. In addition to that, do not borrow too much. The maximum debt repayment, the maximum of money, amount of money you should be paying towards debt is 36% of your income. I know a lot of people pay more than that, but that's making their life miserable. Because when you're paying too much, you don't have enough money to take care of your family, you don't have enough money to have a good time yourself. Because remember one thing, even if you're talking about managing your finances properly and saving and investing, we must remember that life is for the living. You can't say, I will enjoy myself, siku ile tatajirika. Hakuna, huwezi kusema hivyo. Because unaweza kusema hivyo, alafu ukufe leo, ukufe kesho. Sindio? On the other hand, don't let anybody fool you into saying you only live once. Ati yolo. Sema hivyo. Some people think that we can ponda mali kufa kwaja. That's a very bad philosophy. Because, you know what? You can ponder your mali and then kufa does not come. You'll be one miserable old person. And you know some of those miserable old people live very long. They suffer for very many years. Don't let that be you. And by the way, it's under your control. So, enjoy your life, but do it responsibly. So that is how you determine your financial position. If you do that, you'll be able to grow your net worth as you go along. But at the same time, you're enjoying your life. All right? So, once you know your financial position, the next step is to determine what you want to achieve. What are your financial goals? Now, I had said earlier that a person without goals is like a dead fish just floating down the river. You need to set goals so that you can start making moves towards implementing them. Let me see if this thing is working now. It's easier. Where is it? Is it working? Just move it. For me. There are short-term goals and long-term goals. Short-term goals are anything which you want to achieve over the next 3, 4, 5 years. And this, first of all, you must remember that each of us will be having different goals because we are individuals and nobody can tell you this is what you should set as a goal or this is what you should set as a goal. Because you are an adult, it's your money and it's your life. And nobody should try to be preaching to you this is what you should do. But there are some goals which are common and they are good to know so that you can consider them as part of your personal financial plan. Some of them are having money for emergencies. I had said earlier that many of us Kenyans, we suffer because by 10th of the month, pesa yote imekwisha, hatuna pesa, we are broke, and yet we are earning every month. Now, if you run out of money like that, when something unexpected happens, it becomes very stressful. Because now you're forced to start borrowing. You go to M-Shwari, you go to emergency loan for the SACCO. And maybe you have already taken an emergency loan, so you cannot take another one. M-Shwari umefika maximum. Kuna zingine inasikia inaitwa Tala, na ingine Fuliza. All those. Maybe umemax zote. So what do? You start now going to your buddies. Please lend me 5,000. Please, they lend to 5,000. Unfortunately, maybe even your buddies are broke. By the way, stop moving around with broke people. Why? Because brokenness is a contagious disease. Yeah. You see what will happen. Your friends will always be saying, nimesota, utaona, kumbe ni kitu ya kawaida. Kusota ni kitu ya kawaida. Lakini si kitu ya kawaida. And this has got nothing to do with their salary. There are some people with very, very low pay, but they never run out of money. Sindio? In fact, I know in very many places that I go to train or to work with individuals, I find that there are some people in that organization who earn very little, and yet they're the ones who have become the Shylock in the organization. Hapa iko? Bas, make sure it is you. I'm not condoning Shylock, but it's the whole idea of not being broke because you pay, or thinking that your pay is low. That is no excuse. It is just about kujipanga. So, in order to make sure that you don't end up with stress when something unexpected happens, and you never know when it will happen, the only cure is to have some money which you have put aside, ambayo hiyo unasema hiyo ni ile ni only if things go wrong. Ile Wakikuyu wanaita nini? Otukomuru ama kavangwe. You hide it somewhere. That money I'm not touching unless things are thick. Now, we need that kind of money. Every one of us needs that kind of money. An emergency fund. So, how much should it be? How much would you be comfortable to have put aside? Let me hear some suggestions. Supposing, okay, let me give an example. Supposing my income is 30,000, let's just say 30,000. How much should I have as an emergency fund? Any idea? Yes? 100,000. My salary is 30,000. My emergency money should be 100,000. Yes? 180,000. What do you think? 6 months survival. Inaonekana mnajua. Lakini swali ni kwamba mnaetelekeleza hiyo. Hakuna shida. Let me tell you. Ni kujipanga. They're not ways. The answer is between 3 to 6 times your monthly expenses. And this is not just theory. Looks like you have read the books. Now, have you put it into practice? We must put it to practice. And now you have to learn how to do it. Another common goal is to buy a car. Now, you only buy a car if you can afford it. One of the reasons why many of us are in financial bondage is because we end up buying cars, and yet our income does not allow us to own cars. So unakuta mtu amenunua gari, pesa yake yote ni kumaintain gari. So they are unable to save or invest for anything else. Years later, hata hiyo gari inamshinda. Job ikiisha, si gari itakushinda. Unarudi pale pale. And yet, all those years you're working, you had the opportunity to become financially independent. Don't lose that opportunity. Obviously, it's nice to have a car if you can afford it. But what kind of car can you afford? Make sure you're buying a car that you can afford. And remember, a car is a depreciating asset. And depreciation is highest the first 3 years of the car. So saying that at Mimi you say kununua gari mzee, Mimi, you think you're being very smart. But financially, you're actually being daft. Unless you're rich already. When you're rich, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can afford it. But if you're not yet rich, and rich means high net worth. Not having many cars, but high net worth. Buying a new car for most people who don't have high net worth is not a proposal they should be even considering. Because the first 3 years, the depreciation is very, very high. So if you can afford a car, make sure you're buying a car that you can afford. Another common financial goal is debt. Maybe right now, because of either mistakes you have made in the past, or because of circumstances that arose out of which you are beyond your control, you find yourself, you've got so many debts. Now, I can assure you that a person who is full of debts is not a very happy person. Because every phone call, every knock on the door is a stress-inducing event. Whenever the phone rings and he doesn't know the person calling, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Sasa ni nani huyu? Every knock on the door, you're wondering, is it auctioneers? Or is it? That's not a way to live. So if there's a situation, even if it's not that bad, maybe you're just under pressure. Maybe you're just unable to do nice things for yourself because of debt. If that is the situation, maybe you should focus. Over the next 2 years, I'm going to pay off all these extra debts, all these bad debts. If you focus on it and do it, you'll improve your life. So maybe that's another common goal. There are very many other common goals. Maybe even you want to go for holiday. It's a legitimate goal. Or you want to, anything that you want to do that takes a lump sum of money. Set it as a goal and save for it. Don't just wake up one day and rush to the circle to borrow money to do that. That's not planning. So those are all short-term goals. Let's look at the longer-term goals. The first long-term goal I like discussing is ownership of a home. No, the next one. Home ownership. Home ownership is crucial. Owning a home gives financial security to most people. Because when you own the home you're living in, you no longer have to pay rent. And remember, rent is an ever-increasing expense. When you own the home, you no longer have to pay rent. Not only that, the value of the house increases over time, and should you need to borrow maybe for investment, you can borrow against the home. Those are advantages of owning a home. However, having said that, we can also say that homes are extremely expensive. So buying one is not easy. And that's one of the major reasons why people end up in debt. People use various ways of acquiring homes. Some go and accumulate some money and then put a deposit and take a mortgage and then pay off the mortgage over the next 15 years or so. So that's one way. Others use SACCO loans. They go take a loan, borrow, then buy a plot, pay off that loan, borrow again, then start building, and so on. It may take time, but for some people, that's the only avenue available for them. So there are various ways. Now, you should take the way which is most workable for you. Don't just assume that because somebody else took a mortgage, he's wrong and you're right because you want to go this other way. Each person's situation is different, and you should look for the solution which is most appropriate for your situation. Okay? It would not be very smart for you at 50 years old or 60 years old to be trying to take a mortgage, which even getting it is a problem, because obviously your retirement age, you will not have finished the mortgage, and so on and so forth. So you take the solution which is most appropriate to. But buying a home is very, very important. Another common goal is starting up a business. Starting up a business is a dream of many people. But one thing I must say outright is not everybody is not right for everybody, because we are all talented differently. We have different skills and different abilities. For instance, I faint at the sight of blood. I am a coward. If you got injured right now, I'll be the first one out of the room. Not that I don't want to help you, but I'm incapable. I'm just scared of blood. Now, would I make a good doctor? Obviously not. So if you're there, you're very good at your work here, and you try to go into business, which is totally different from your experience of all those years you've experienced here, it may be that the talents you have and the abilities you have do not match the needs of that business. And that's why you find a lot of people retire from being employed, take all their money, and then they start off a business with all that money, and then within a few years you find the business collapsed, and they become poor. So don't do that. Make sure that if you're planning to start the business, you have the right skills and the right attributes to do that business before you do it. But not having a business does not mean that you will remain poor. I have clients of mine who are millionaires, multimillionaires, and yet they don't run any businesses. How do they do it? Simply by investing. They are investors. You can be an investor without being a business person. Those are two different things. So, starting up a business, you have to realize that you need capital. Don't start off a business with 100% borrowed money. It's very, very risky. Business, even without borrowing, is already risky. But when you go and borrow and start a business, you increase the risk tremendously. So that is another common goal. Think about that. Another common goal is kids' education. Kids are very nice to have, and they make people happy. Even just seeing a baby. Just think about it. If somebody just hands you a baby, you see, you started smiling already, see? You can't help it. People say they're gifts from God, and I believe they are. However, what they don't tell you, which you soon discover, is that those gifts from God come with a lot of expenses. A lot of expenses. You have to feed them, you have to take care of their health, you have to educate them, and you can't fail in any of this. Especially, education has a very big impact on how their life will turn out. It is a big impact. So you have to do the best you can. And education, believe you me, it is expensive. Primary school, secondary school education. Please make sure you take your children to schools that you can afford. Don't take your children to expensive schools simply to match the society's expectations. Don't take your children to expensive schools so that they can see ati watoto wako wanaenda academy fulani. Do your maths. Make sure that even as you're taking them to that school, you are also saving money for their higher education. It would be so sad, and I've seen it happening, to take your kids to extremely expensive schools, primary school, secondary school, and then once they finish secondary school, you're unable to give them a good higher education. That would be so sad. And that's why, one of the reasons why you find a lot of kids, they are so destroyed, they're so messed up, because they grew up with big expectations, and then eventually they were let down by their parents. What we need to do, as soon as kids start going to school, as soon as kids are born, start saving for those children. Start investing for those kids. Start putting money aside, a little every month, so that by the time they are ready to go to their higher education, you have some money. Maybe you might only have to add a little. I know you can say, oh, my kids will get a help loan. Yeah, I know you're a very brilliant person, very intelligent. But how do you know your kids will turn out the same? You know, you might get kids wako kama nani. Watoto ni kama nani. So how do you know they will get that university, the regular intake? You cannot be sure, because competition is very high. So the best way to make sure they will get a good higher education is to prepare to pay for at least parallel programs or private universities. Prepare yourself. How do you prepare? By starting early. If you wait until the last 2-3 years, you will find that you have to put so much in order to be able to achieve that. And remember, you probably have more than one child, right? Most of us have more than one child. So, ukiwa na watoto 6, ujipange. Watoto ni wanaletwa na Mungu, eh? Make sure Mungu does not bring you too many, eh? I'm not saying that you should not get 6 or 8, but ujipange accordingly, right? Children's education, very, very important. And as I'm saying this, I can already see some people have an idea about what they should do about children's education. And that idea is what? I knew they were thinking of insurance. Whether that is right or not, we will see shortly. So children's education is another goal. The final goal I like discussing. And I like discussing this because it is actually the most important one. This is the goal you cannot afford to fail to prepare for. This is the goal that you will not have a second chance to prepare for. This is the most challenging goal. And this goal is about preparation for your old age. I know if you are 30 years today, telling you about your old age looks like a joke. Sasa huyu ananiambia nini? Ati nini? Ati siku za uzee. Bana, I've barely started working. I know you feel young. Do you know what? I also feel young. Believe me, I also feel young. The years just fly. It's unbelievable. Ask anybody who's older, and they will tell you they don't know where the years went. It looks just like yesterday I started working, and now they're telling me to go home. If you have not prepared yourself, it's going to be a rough ride. Because think about it. What will you live on? That pension which we talked about, if that is what you're depending on, you're going to be poor. Because most pensions will probably give you about 30 to 35% of your pre-retirement income. So if you're going to get 30 to 35%, it means that your lifestyle, kama ulikuwa umezoea kuishi hali hii, all of a sudden from the retirement day, inaenda chini. And to make it worse, Those pensions are not adjusted for inflation, most of them. So as the years go deeper into retirement, that money is able to buy less and less and less. I always give the example of my dad when I come to retirement. My dad is still around, and he retired 1980-something with a pension of about 1,600 shillings per month. He still gets about the same. How many years later? 40. He's 90-something. Can you live on 1,600 shillings? Can you even live in one day, live alone? And yet, that's what he gets. He told me that, all my friends, looks like all my friends have gone. I don't meet any of them. In fact, he told me the other day that I don't like asking about them anymore. Why? Because kila nikiuliza nani ikoje siku hizi naambiwa ati alienda. Nikiuliza nani alienda. And most of them actually died within 5 years of retiring. Within 5 years. Why do you think they died? And many of them were healthy before that. What happens? Have you heard that most people die within a short time after retirement? Why? Stress. And what is the biggest cause of stress? Finances. Jamaa hajui, akiumwa na hapa hana pesa ya Jamaa anafikiria, sasa nitaenda kuomba mtoto wangu. Just the loss of pride. You feel so bad, you have to go and beg from your son or your daughter. My friends, your old age is when you're supposed to be financially independent, giving back to the society as a solid pillar of the society. And you can't do that if you're broke. It'll be very difficult for you to do that if you're broke. How to prevent that? By preparing when you're working. So you see, there are so many goals that we have. You have to prepare for old age. You have to prepare for children's education. You have to buy a house. You have to have money for emergencies. You have to do so many things. And yet, mshahara ni ile tu. And that is the reason why we must not play around with our income. Don't think, usijali ati next month ingine inakuja. Kwa hivyo hata hii ni kiblo niko sawa tu. You're not sawa. You should take responsibility. Be very responsible with whatever you earn and make sure you're not wasting any of it. How do you do that? By doing the next thing. And that is managing your cash flow effectively. Effective cash flow management. There are several things you need to do in order to be able to manage your cash flow effectively. The first thing you need to do is to understand that the biggest rule of personal finance is this. You must spend less than you earn. You must spend less than you earn. In fact, I call that the cardinal rule of personal finance. If you spend all that you earn, you're just running on the spot. Mshahara inaingia, unakula yote. Next month inaingia, unakula yote. If you do that, you're just running on the spot. And the day that income stops, you sink. On the other hand, if you spend more than you earn, which is what a lot of us do, if you spend more than you earn, what happens is you find yourself sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. So unajikuta mwaka huu, debt zako zilikuwa 1,300. 3 years later, you find your debts are 500,000. 10 years later, debts 5 million. And yet, you're not accumulating any assets. That is because you're spending more than you're earning. You must spend less than you earn. How do you do that? By developing and using a budget. I know people don't even like that word, budget. So you can use another way of calling it, and we call it a spending plan. Yeah, eat a spending plan, because give a dog a bad name. A spending plan is basically saying, this is how much I earn, and this is how I will spend it. So in that spending plan, you put all your expenses, your food, your accommodation, your transportation, your education for your children, your entertainment, everything that you're spending money on, including your savings and investments. They should be listed on that budget. Most people lose money. They waste money without even realizing. Why? Because they don't even record their expenses. Do you have a written budget that you follow? Let me see who uses a written budget and follows it religiously. Who does? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's about a quarter. Yeah, that's good. The rest of you, start now. It will help you, I assure you. It may sound odd writing down what you're spending. You may even panic when you begin to realize how you're wasting money. I know some of you don't want to write it down because you don't want your spouse to see. Okay, write it for yourself. Because it will help you keep your eye on the ball. Because those little amounts of money we spend left, right, and center, by the end of the month, they accumulate to a lot of money. By the end of the year, even huge amount of money. By the end of your working life, you could have thrown away your financial security, your financial independence. Just write out without just spending it without realizing on inconsequential things. A lot of people think that when you have a budget, you don't enjoy life. That is not correct. Because that budget should actually include your entertainment. And you should entertain yourself. Like I said earlier, life is for the living. You must never ever tell yourself that, let me suffer now, I will enjoy later. There may be no later. You must enjoy now as you're going on. But prepare for the future. Okay? So a budget is very, very important. Record all expenses, consider ways of reducing those expenses. Now, when you talk about consider ways of reducing expenses, here I'm talking of some of the things we spend money on. Do we really need them? Or do we really need that particular brand of item? There are some things, just because of the brand name, it costs twice as much. And essentially, it's the same thing. So you have to consider various ways of reducing expenses. So these are expenses. Then debt. We had mentioned about debt before. When you're talking about debt, you must look at where are you borrowing. Like now, these mobile loans people play around with. How much do they cost you? They cost a huge amount of money. But people don't even realize. They might think it costs a lot, but they don't know how much. How much is the SACCO loan? SACCO interest? How much? 12 to 14%. Okay. Mshwari. How much is it? 7.5% per month. So per year is how much? It's the same as a Shylock, almost. Okay, yeah. Now talking about the Shylock. Shylock themselves were charging how much? Was it 30% per month? 20 to 30%. How much is that per annum? And yet people are going there saying, hey, asiyafadhali Shylock. Ananisaidiaga. Anakusaidia nini? Anakunyonya kabisa na unasema anakusaidia. So, we have to think about the cost of everything, including the cost of those loans, the credit we are taking. So, do not borrow too much and make sure you borrow from the most effective sources of debt. Let's have the next slide, please. Okay, now, the other thing, this one is very simple. Buying things without planning, buying on impulse. Big mistake. I'm not saying that you should not buy nice clothes, nice stuff, but plan for it. Put it in your budget. Income taxes, also the same. How do you pay your taxes? Do you think you pay too much? Are you deducted at source these days? You are. Make sure you're not paying too much. There are several ways of reducing taxes. One is to joining a retirement scheme, a registered retirement scheme. If your retirement scheme with your employer is not registered locally, that gives you an opportunity to reduce your taxes. How is this? You can join an individual pension plan locally. And whatever money you put in there, it will be deducted from your salary before tax is calculated, and therefore it will reduce your tax liability, the amount of tax you're required to pay. So that is something which you should think about. That's one way to reduce your taxes. Another one is for anybody who wants to buy or build a house, you can save money for a house in a registered retirement, registered home ownership scheme, and you'll be able to reduce your taxes in that way. So that's another way to reduce your income taxes. A third way is to finance your house with a mortgage. I know a mortgage has got a very bad name. People think a mortgage is the most horrible thing, but if you finance your house with a mortgage, you will be able to reduce your income. You'll be able to save a lot of money from income tax, and the amount is actually there. 25,000 per month. That is 300,000 shillings per year. That's a huge amount of money. And then lastly, you can, by buying life insurance, you get income tax relief of maximum of 56,000 shillings. So that's another way to reduce your income taxes. You can further reduce your expenses by, remember these get rich quick schemes and betting and, does anybody bet in this room? I'm sure, no, they don't. No, they don't. Anyway, the thing is, leave alone even betting, even those lotto things, the way they keep advertising them as if you are the next person to win. The chance of you winning that big amount which they are enticing you there with, it is so minuscule, it is not even worth thinking about. They say it is approximately the same odds as being struck by lightning. Have you ever been struck by lightning? If you have never, then what makes you think that you'll win that? It's the same odds. So you need to remember that those people are just making money from you. Don't get involved. Just focus on your life and invest, make your money slowly. Another thing you need to improve your income, you need to also to focus on if you have on your career. And if you have a business, learn how you can grow your business. That way you'll increase your income. So the whole idea is not just to reduce your expenses, but also to increase your income. On one side, reduce your expenses. On the other, increase your income. One very important technique of making sure that you are able to save, and that is to pay yourself first. By paying yourself first, I mean, this is what I mean. When you get your salary, usually you pay the landlord, you pay the supermarket, you pay the petrol station, you pay all those other things which you buy. Now, will you ever see that money again? That money is gone. It's actually not yours. You're working for those people. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of saying, let me do those other things first, and then what is remaining, I will save. If you do that, how much will remain? How much will remain for you to save? Nothing. So what you do is turn it the other way around and decide what you want to save, remove it from your income, and then live on whatever is left. And in fact, the SACCO does that very neatly for you by salary checkoff. That's how you pay your SACCO shares, isn't it? SACCO contribution. Imagine if one day the SACCO said, let everybody get their salary. And then around this time, what's the date today? 17th, 16th. Then today they come, they're asking for your contribution. Can I have your contribution? Can I have? How much will they get? Hakuna kitu watapata, si ndio? But simply because it is deducted at source, even before you get your greedy fingers on it, you're able to save a lot, isn't it? Use that for all your investments and live on what is left. If you do that, I can assure you, you'll be able to save even more than you're saving in the SACCO. Saving is not rocket science. It is simply doing these simple things, and all of them together makes a huge impact on the amount of money you're able to save. So now with that, you'll see that you already know how to manage your income so that you can achieve the goals which you have, so that you can improve your financial situation. And that is the third pillar of financial success. The fourth pillar of financial success is investment. Now, investment is a very popular subject. People like saying this is the best investment, this is the best investment. But there are some basics we need to understand first before we actually consider where should we put our money. The first thing we need to consider is about risk and return. And here, everybody knows that the higher the return, the higher the risk. Everybody knows that. But unfortunately, when it comes to actually practically investing, people just look at the return. Ndio maana unasikia wakiambiwa, this investment, it will give you 30% return per month. They rush there. While they should be telling themselves, by the way, 30% per month, that is 360% per year. That is very high. And very high return means very high risk. So ukisikia hiyo uangalie zote mbili. Sio kusikia tu return unakimbia huko. Hapana, ukisikia return unaangalia pia risk. And then weigh and then decide. Make sure you don't just think of the return. So think of risk and return. Another thing is, there is a saying that says you must not put all your eggs in one basket. Which means that don't invest all your money in one place, because you never know what could happen. That investment can go bad. And therefore, you should be investing in various places. So if you're investing in stocks, don't invest in stocks just of one company, but invest in stocks of many companies. And don't just invest in many companies, invest in many companies in various sectors of the economy. And don't just invest in stocks alone, invest in other places. So that's what I mean by diversification. Another aspect of investment that we need to consider is liquidity. Liquidity refers to, if I put my money in this investment, supposing I want it back, how quickly will it take for me to get the money back? Various investments have various levels of liquidity. For instance, if you invest in stocks, if you want your money back, especially the blue chip stocks, you can get money back within days. You can sell it within days at the market price. On the other end of the spectrum, if your investment is a plot somewhere in the village, hata title hakuna, hata ujui vizuri pale iko, ukitaka kuuza utauza rahisi, utauza haraka, it will be difficult. So that one is not so liquid. So before you buy an investment, before you put your money down, you need to consider, is it liquid? Is it not? Does it match my goal? So if your goal is to buy, say for instance, your goal is, say, to go for holiday next year. Can you buy a plot so as to go for holiday next year? Can you? Obviously, there is a big mismatch there. Consider before you put your money. And remember, investment must be tied to a goal. There are a lot of people who think investment is a goal. Investment is not a goal. Investment is just a vehicle to arrive at your goal. So whatever you're investing, you must be having a reason. Why am I investing this money here? Am I investing for my old age? Or am I investing for my children's education? Or am I investing for that holiday? What am I investing in before I put the money down? The investment must be appropriate to the investment goal. So liquidity you must think about. The other thing you need to think about and consider is compound growth. Compound growth is the earning of a return by a return which is already been earned. And this is how it works. I have an investment somewhere. At the end of the year, I get a return. And then instead of spending that return, I put it back in the investment so that the next year the investment will be bigger. It will give me a bigger return. If you do this consistently, you will find that your investment will grow at a rate which is way beyond that the rate of return which is being given for that particular investment. In fact, that is a secret behind all massive wealth. That is a secret behind all massive wealth. You see, people with a high income, most of them do not spend all that they earn, unlike us who have low income. So somebody might be earning 10 million a year. Maybe they spend for their living expenses 2 million a year. The rest 8 million, do they just leave it in the bank? No, they invest it. So that the next year they'll earn 11 million. Then again, next year they put more in the investment. So you find that their net worth is growing and growing and growing. That's why the rich become richer, and the poor, what do the poor do? Oh, I thought somebody was going to tell me the poor get children. Anyway, the rich become richer. Now, another way of explaining it is the chicken and egg thing. There's an example I used there. Just take it back. I say, just imagine, think of a farmer. This farmer owns a chicken or gets a chicken. Then this chicken lays an egg. The farmer says, I'm hungry today. So what does he do? He decides, wacha nifry tu, anakula hiyo, anafagia. Every day the chicken lays an egg, the guy eats the egg. Will that guy ever have more than one chicken? Obviously not. In fact, in the end, what will happen? Atakula kuku, sindio? Yeah. And that's what will happen, actually. But supposing this farmer decided to do one thing. He says to himself, listen, I didn't have this chicken before, and I was surviving. So, vile nitafanya, nita-assume sina hii kuku. Aache kuku itage mayai, ikae, ingine, itage ingine. Alafu kuna mambo ingine inaendelea hapo ya fertilization. Hiyo, I won't go into those details. But, after a short while, vifaranga wanatoka. And then he just leaves them. They grow. Then they also start laying eggs. He still doesn't eat because he's got two things which we all need, actually. He's got patience and he's got discipline. If you are to succeed financially, you need those. Usiniambia me, I'm not disciplined. Me, nikiweka pesa naenda kuichukua tu. Hapana. Ukifanya hivyo, you'll always be poor. So you need the discipline. So this guy, anaacha zikue, zinakuwa, zinaanza kutaga mayai zinaleta vifaranga wengine. Within a short time, you'll find that the guy has got so many chicken. That was not very visible, but he's got so many chicken now. Sasa, atatumba amegrow. Kitambi imetoka. Sasa, this guy, is there anything to stop him from eating eggs in the morning, chicken for lunch, chicken for dinner? Kuna kitu itamzuia? Na hizo kuku zingine zote zinamletea mayai. In fact, atachoka na kula kuku. Lakini hizo zingine zote zinamletea pesa, si ndio? Now, that is what you should do with all your investments. Now, which brings me back to the point which I said earlier in the beginning when I was talking about the SACCO. How much dividend does the SACCO pay? How much? 9%. Okay, so what do you do with the dividend? Aha, nafagia, mnafurahi, eh? Now, that is the mistake which I was saying, that over 90% of SACCO members make that mistake. Panga. And I was at what about Christmas? Panga. It should be in your budget. You remember I talked about a budget? Huh? That should be in your budget. Let me tell you a secret. If only you reinvested that dividend, within, say, 5, 7, 10 years, you'll be shocked how big your money is in the SACCO. There is a time I was doing some training for members of, I think, Stima SACCO. And one of the examples we gave was one of the members of the SACCO, of Stima SACCO, who had the highest number of dividends, of shares. And his money in the SACCO was a lot. In fact, it was so much, it was much more than his pension from the company, much more. And they were calculating that if that guy retired right away, he could support himself fully just with that money from the SACCO. But how did he achieve that? And he was not the most senior in the company, in the Kenya Power. He was nowhere near the most senior. How did he do that? That guy, from the time he joined the SACCO, he never took his dividend. That's all. He never took his dividend. All he do is reinvest it, reinvest it, reinvest it. You'll be shocked how much your shares will grow. At 9%, that's not a bad return. That's not a bad return. To use, supposing it was 10% to make it easier to calculate, if it was giving you 10%, your money would double in 7.2 years without adding a single coin. Double. In 7.2 years without, now remember you're still adding. So how quickly will it take to double? It will double much, much faster. So these are things which you can actually do, and they will not make you more mean or more stingy or leave. All you do is tell the SACCO, rudisha your dividend. Here too. And one aspect of your needs is taken care of. So compound growth, very, very important. That is a secret to massive wealth. So that's the other thing. Next. We talked about compound growth. In fact, this is a simple example. This is the impact of investing, say, forget about the first one. If you invested 50,000 per month for 20 years, earning 10% return, you'd end up with 37 million shillings. If you want to do it 5%, 5,000, do 5,000. 5,000, you end up with 3.7 million. And your contribution there is only 1.2 million. The impact of compound growth is very, very big. And you should take advantage of it. Yeah. Make sure you do that. All right. So reinvest all profits from all investment, not just the SACCO, but all investments. Next. So where can you be putting our money? You know, every time I go and meet people, we're talking about finances, the first question they ask me is, which is the best investment? There is no such thing as the best investment. But there is an investment which is appropriate to a particular goal. So, and there is no shortage of investments, by the way. There are so many. But most people don't have any money to invest because they don't even manage their cash flow properly. So these are some of the investments which are available. You already have your SACCO. The SACCO, does it have an investment company, or is it just a SACCO? Just SACCO, okay. Oh, for now. Okay. Okay, so there it is. And you've had 9% return, which is a respectable return for very low risk. Other investments, stocks. Is there anybody here who invests in stocks? Stocks, yes. Yes. All right, stocks are a good investment. Long-term investments. However, actually, the risk is high, but that comes with a high return. Now, the problem which people encounter is that they don't have the skills. Most people don't have the skills. And when we are trying to invest in stocks, we invest the wrong way. Besides those ones who says they invest in stocks, is there anybody who bought Safaricom shares when they were first? Safaricom shares, one, two. Everyone. Wengine hata nyinyi inweni mikono mlinunua. Why did you buy them? Is that a good reason? Because everyone bought. How did you know the potential? Guesswork. It's good to be honest. How did you know it was growing at that time? It is euphoria. It is the hype. They advertise it. There were billboards all over. There were radio advertisement, TV advertisement, a lot of hype, marketing hype. Then the banks were even coming around giving you loans to buy the shares, isn't it? All that is people trying to make money off people who should not be investing in stocks. Because to invest in stocks, you need either to have the skills to invest successfully, or use a professional who has those skills. Now, when you are there lining up, which professional has advised you that that's a good investment? Iko. Advertising, billboard, and investment advisor wako ni billboard. On TV, those are who are giving free advice. And they're advising everybody. That's not the right way to buy stocks. Either learn how to do it, and you must be aware that it's a technical thing. You have to learn how to calculate the value of that stock, and then be able to estimate its potential in the market, compare with the competition. There are so many variables to think about. It is a technical thing, and many of us are not really geared for that. But it is possible. If you're really interested, there are resources and you can learn. But it is not something that you just do without thinking and without a lot of work. There's a lot of work necessary for you to be able to invest successfully in stocks directly, yourself. If you're going to go to an investment advisor, there we may encounter a slight challenge if we're just beginning, because investment advisors, by the way, I'm not talking about stockbrokers. Stockbrokers are not investment advisors. In fact, they're not supposed to be telling you which stock to buy and which not to buy. They're not licensed to do that. It's illegal what they do. When they do that, that's it. They do it illegally. And a registered investment advisor, there are less than 30 of them, I believe, and they are all listed in the Capital Markets Authority website, cma.or.ke. Now, the challenge which many of us may find when we try to go to a registered investment advisor is that they target high net worth people. And so, to cut out the rest of us, they will tell you minimum account balance, $500,000 or 1 million. So most of us will start, the ones who are beginning to invest will not really benefit that way. So investing in stocks there with their advice will be not practical for most of us. However, that does not mean that we forget about stocks. If we don't want to learn how to do it ourselves, or or that's not our thing, and we are not going to get an investment advisor, there's still another avenue which you can invest in stocks through, and that is investing through the unit trusts. A unit trust is a simple way for most people, in which most people can actually access the financial markets. Now, a unit trust is simply a financial company that employs analysts who have the skills and the resources to be able to do that analysis of the markets and the individual investments and select the ones which are the most appropriate for each account which they have. They call them funds. So they usually organize themselves to have different levels of risk and return in the various funds. For instance, you can have an equity fund. An equity fund will be a higher risk, and it will often give you a much higher return. Now, an equity fund, in there, they will invest stocks. They will invest in stocks. There is also a fund, like a much lower risk fund, like the money market fund. When you put your money in a money market fund, that money is invested in treasury bills and short-term treasury bonds. So that is much lower risk. But with lower risk comes lower return. And then there is a balanced fund, which is a mixture of the two. So you, as an investor, you can actually decide which fund you want to go. And by going to a particular fund, you choose your level of risk and return. If you go to these unit trusts, you will be assured that you will not be cheated of your money, because these are regulated by the government agency, the Capital Markets Authority. So everything is transparent. So that is how it is with the unit trusts. Now, besides unit trusts, there are other places you can invest. So stocks and government securities, those are good investments, but they need the skills, and some of them, they're cumbersome to invest in, like the bonds. For individuals, they're cumbersome because they may need a lump sum of money, and then they pay the dividend direct to your account, so you cannot compound it. But with unit trust, compounding is automatic. And then you've got professional management. Risk and return, it's under your control. You decide how much risk you want. Not only that, liquidity. Remember we talked about liquidity also? They are also liquid. You can get your money back. They will tell you how long it takes to get your money back, but usually, typically, within a week. So all those are taken care of in the unit trusts. So that is another available investment that you can get yourself involved in. Then the place where many of us Kenyans like to run, and that is real estate, and especially plots, land. Maguta, I can hear them already. Now, what do you think? Let me hear what you think. In fact, let me ask you. Tell me about those plots. What do you think? What is your idea? What do you think? Are they good investments?
Some are a good investment, but others are not, depending on where they are located. Okay, so
yeah. Please use the microphone so that everyone can hear.
Okay, what I was saying is some investment or some of those plots, the plots maguta, some of them are good investment and some are not, depending on where they are located and basically the environment, because you need to look at some of the things in the places that you're buying such plots, including the infrastructure, that is maybe roads, electricity, water, and such things. So some places are not viable, so you need to look at some of those things maybe before you buy.
Okay, has anybody got any experience with that, a good or bad experience? Anybody? Yes, with the plots, yes.
I think, especially in Nairobi and around the environs, the plots are not actually being sold for the real value that they are. They are overrated, and they are when it comes to selling, that's when you realize that you actually sunk your money.
Okay. Now, undeveloped plots, they have some advantages and some disadvantages. The advantages are, if you happen to buy land where they is in the path of development, you can actually make huge, huge profits. However, how do you know that development is going to come that way? And how come you're the only one who knows? Because if everybody knows, then that will already be factored in the price. If everybody knows, it will already be in the price. So how do you know? Then another thing, a lot of people who have actually no goal tied to that particular land, they are busy going and taking loans and buying a plot somewhere where they've been told there is a gated community and the plots are going to appreciate in value and they are going to be given titles within 6 months. Then on the strength of that, they go and give their money. Do you think that's a good idea? The first thing is, this person who's promising you the titles, is he the issuing authority? Title deeds come from the government. Now, this is a private company telling you you'll get the titles. On what basis are they promising you? And then the other question is, if they don't give you the title, what will you do? Have you heard of instances where people have bought plots and then 20 years later they still don't have the title deeds? There are so many. It's unbelievable. Now remember, you have sunk in your money there. Can you get it out? Hardly so. Remember another thing. Plots do not have cash flow. It's not giving you anything in cash. You only make your profit if you either sell it or develop it and start collecting rent. Now, if you are buying a plot which is in the middle of nowhere, can you build and get rental there? You can't. So what are you really doing? Unless it is money you can afford to have planted there for the next 20 years. Most of us do not have that kind of money. Ati niweke pesa mahali ningoje 20 years. Most of us, we really cannot afford that. So doing that, don't be told that ati ardhi haiozi. Unaweza kufa because you don't have money for hospital and that plot is there. Or your child can die and you don't have money and the plot is there. And you're trying to sell it and you cannot get a buyer. Make sure you don't get so attached to land simply because they used to say that, or people say that land is the best investment. In fact, they just say simply, land is the best. There is no such thing as best investment. There is only an investment which is appropriate to a goal or an investment which is not appropriate to a goal. So by the time you're buying the plot, you should have an idea. Why am I buying it? Am I going to get is there a title? Is it clear? Can I develop the place? Can I sell it if I want to? Have all these questions answered. Have all these questions answered. The other aspect of real estate is rental property. Now, rental property is a much better deal than undeveloped land. Much better, for one, because it has got cash flow. You're collecting rent, so every month you're getting some money. So that's one of the reasons why it's a much better deal. And that is what gives it value. Now, how to enter the real estate, the rental property? There are several ways to do it. You can either buy a plot and develop, or you can buy a property which is already built. Maybe somebody wants to sell or somebody is being auctioned or something like that. You can buy that and continue with that. Now, there is a way which people have been buying apartments, especially apartments, which we need to discuss. And that is buying off-plan. Now, you find them advertising in the social media, advertising on the newspapers, or even billboards. And the pictures which are put there, they really look nice and attractive. And then they are telling you to, if you buy now, the price, you get a very good price compared with the people who will buy later. Now, that time they're telling you like that, is there anything existing? It's just the pictures, right? Okay, so now you put your money there. And you hope by the time they finish, they will hand it over to you. Now, do you think there is any risk there? There is a very, very serious risk, much more serious than we tend to realize. Because, first of all, you're buying something which is not in existence at that time, and then you're giving your money to this commercial entity, hoping that they will keep their word. And while so many things can go wrong in between, even if they are very straight and straightforward and they are well-meaning, still things can go wrong. For instance, what would happen to you and your money if that company went bust? And development is a high-risk venture, so companies do go bust. So what would happen to your money if that company went bust? And remember, we're not talking about 200,000 shillings, we're talking about millions of shillings. Will you get it back? Your money is gone. Remember, it's very difficult to accumulate money, but to lose it, you can lose it like that. So when you're giving money to that entity, you have no title deed, we have just an agreement. And an agreement based on nothing is just a piece of paper. They are holding all the cards and your money. You are holding just a piece of paper. And that's not a very good situation to be in. So I would urge you to be very careful in getting involved. No matter how much you like a house, no matter how good those pictures look. In fact, there have already been several cases of fraud with those kind of pictures, isn't it? There was somebody who was posting an estate in South Africa and showing here that they are developing it here. And then they collected money and disappeared. Several of these companies which have been collecting money from people over the past 5-10 years, some of them have not yet delivered on houses which they are supposed to have delivered 4-5 years ago. And the people who have paid, they can do nothing but wait and hope and pray. So don't be in that situation. You're not in control. So real estate, especially income-generating real estate, is a good investment. And one of the things which I feel would be the best use of the SACCO is to use it to get into rental real estate. Remember, we talked about good loans and bad loans. SACCO loans can really build you. But if you use that SACCO loan to go for an overseas holiday, my friend, if you use a SACCO loan to go see your children in America, those kind of loans, if those are the loans you are taking, then I can assure you that you are not using the SACCO in a way to gain you financial independence. But since this SACCO is big enough to be able to fund something like rental real estate, I can assure you that's an opportunity which very few people in this country have. An opportunity which would be so sad for you to lose. So, my friends, wake up and think about that. That's how to get into that rental real estate investment. And one of the key ways of attaining financial independence is getting into rental real estate. Business startup is another avenue of investing. Now, everybody talks about how they would like to get into business. Yeah, and it's actually exciting because you know that most of the rich people in the country, they are business people. But like I said earlier, not everybody can be a business person. So before you think about that, gauge yourself. Ask yourself, am I up to it? If you're not, you can still become wealthy through becoming an investor. But the most important investment of all, besides real estate, besides stocks, besides unit trust, the most important investment I believe in is investing in yourself. Investing so that you know how to invest in these other investments. Because if you don't invest in yourself to teach yourself, then what will happen? Every pyramid scheme will come and they will cheat you. You'll jump into it. Pesa inapotea. Unaenda hivi kidogo, multi-level marketing scheme inakuja. Pesa inapotea. Inaenda kidogo hivi, pesa yako inapotea na some other fraudulent business people. Because you have not invested in your skills to be able to analyze these things. Invest in yourself and you'll be able to invest in proper income-generating investments that will give you financial independence. So investing in yourself, very important. So that's the pillar of investing. After you have invested, the fifth pillar is very simple, and this is protecting yourself from risks such as illness and all. You already know about health insurance. I'm sure you have the health insurance cover at work. Even if you happen to leave work, please make sure that you buy that appropriate cover. There is also life insurance. Make sure that you have adequate life insurance so that in case something happens to you, your family, the people who depend on you are taken care of. It will be very sad that you've been very good taking care of your family, and then something happens to you, and then your kids are kicked out of school, they're kicked out of their house, and that will be terrible. And yet, you can prevent it. So make sure that it is done. Then the other thing which most Kenyans don't want to hear about is about writing a will. This is not just theory. It is actually practical. If you do not write a will and something happens to you, it's the courts which will decide what will determine what will happen to your estate. And I'm quite sure that you would not like the courts to make those decisions. So take charge of that by writing your will, seeing a lawyer and writing the will. Pay that fee. I know Kenyans, we are really allergic to paying professionals, but we better wake up and do it properly. Actually, it is not even necessary to go to a lawyer, but I would advise you to go to a lawyer to make sure that it is done correctly. So write a will, and once you do that, you have done what you can to protect yourself. Now, once you've done that, the final pillar of financial planning is implementation. Now, when I started out, I said that I'm promising that today's presentation is very short and I cannot go into the details. I'm not able to go into the details. And yet some people may want to take it further. Now, this is actually what I do. I help people align their goals with their behaviors. Because all of us, we have an income and we have certain goals. But then, maybe out of not knowing or not having the accountability, we behave in a way which is not appropriate for our goals. And thereby we end up, we have spent all our money and we have not met our goals. So I work as a financial coach and I help people align their goals and their behavior so that they achieve those goals. I teach people how to manage their money better through principles which are universal principles. They're not actually my principles, but they're universal principles of personal financial management. So I help people actually understand them. And I do it through various ways. The first, what I do is I do it free of charge through a YouTube channel. It's called Money Skills with Manyara Kirago, YouTube. If you search there, YouTube, you will see that. So that is free. And I usually I try to post every week. At least something. You learn one aspect of the finances, whether it is insurance, investments, whatever, one aspect of your personal finances. So that is one thing. The other thing I do, The other way I help people learn is I've written a book. Let me have a copy there. I've written a book which is called How to Become a Lifelong Financial Independence. Now, this book covers those principles, those pillars of financial independence. It covers all those things we're discussing here, but in much greater detail. Now, this book goes for 1950, but if anybody is interested in it today, you can get it from Brenda here for 1,000 shillings. So that's the second thing which I do to help people implement these things. Even more than after that, I have an online personal finance course which takes people through the same framework of personal financial management in videos online. Now that course on our website, it's people sign up on our website and they pay a fee of something like 14,700. If anybody is interested in it today, I will be willing to sign them up for 10,000 shillings. But besides that, the one which really gets people aligned and people which had the biggest transformation is the one-on-one financial coaching, where we sit with somebody, either in my office or we do it over Skype, over many sessions, where I get to understand their situation and exactly what they want to do and exactly what they have, what they want to achieve. And then I work with them through the planning, through the implementation, until they achieve what they want to achieve. That's the financial coaching. Now that's the coaching. So even that, if anybody is interested, they can give their name and we'll be able to follow up with them and let them know exactly what it entails. So that is how I help in the implementation phase of the personal financial planning. Because it is nice to have an idea that there's something you can do. It is also good to know these principles. But unless you actually start putting them into practice, nothing changes. We can be here talking till kingdom come. And we'll still be in the same situation, having challenges with our finances, in spite of having an income. Some of us have very good income. I have worked with people, from people with very low income to people with very high income. And I found that income has got very little to do with the financial outcome, with the eventual outcome. In fact, I've worked with somebody who had so much debt that he was on the verge of committing suicide. He actually attempted suicide. And yet he was earning a good pay, and he was really trying hard to please everybody. But the things he was doing, instead of helping his family and himself, they were actually putting him further and further into problems. So somehow we worked our way out of that, and today he's a very comfortable person, and he's actually even now retired. He retired last year. On the other hand, I've also worked with somebody who had very, very high income, and yet auctioneers were always one step behind. And he actually told me, he just told me, Manyara, you see, me, I don't have a problem with income. In fact, my job right now, I earn over $1 million a month. And if I lose it, I'll get another one within 3 months. I have no problem with that. But expenses, I have a problem. So we worked with him, and then he got to take charge of his finances. And today he's actually a head of one of the big government organizations. And life goes on. So it doesn't matter how little you earn or how much you earn. It doesn't matter whether you're already doing very well financially or not. There is always something that we can talk about. So if you're ready, just step up. Now, so I've talked about the book. I've talked about the financial coaching and the online course. So now it just leaves you. The next step is yours. It's up to you. These are basically the nuts and bolts of getting financially independent. Knowing those 6 pillars and putting them into practice. Once you know them, you have to start. And the thing is, don't say, I will start when I finish my loan. I will start when I get that promotion. I will start when I do this. The time to start is now. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you so much for giving so much attention. And I hope that I've touched a nerve somewhere. I hope it's not a raw nerve. I hope it's one of those nerves which will get you into action. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Are we impressed? I think based on the discussion, some of us have been touched, and I'm happy that I'm one of them. And seeing the room, I can see 2 senior members who are very pleased. And maybe when we get at that age, we should also be attending these meetings. Maybe they invested well, and that's why they're here. So I salute the 2 of you. I think you know each other. Francis and my neighbor in the right, you're most welcome. So based on the discussion, now I will be giving an opportunity for us to engage, ask few questions, or many, so long as we get out of here well satisfied and more happier and with a better plan for future. Thank you.
Okay. I want to also say thank you to Manyara because before we came here, some of us are finance people, but a colleague was asking me, what don't you know about finance? But I said, let's just go because some of these things, we might be finance people in the books and also in calculating, but in managing it will be difficult. So I think I've learned a lot, and I think I speak for many of the, in this room about what we've learned. My question is on his one-on-one coaching. How much does he charge, and what does it entail, essentially?
Okay, I think I'll collect like 2 or 3, then I hand over to you. Frank, then I come to you.
Yeah, so earlier on he mentioned that when he posed the question, how do we prepare for our children's education, and someone said insurance. I believe you were to talk about that, and you didn't. Is education insurance a good idea or not?
First of all, thank you very much for a very captivating and informative talk. I have 2 very brief questions. Number 1, how do you bridge the no-do gap? Because, for example, when you inquired as to how many people do budget, very few people did raise up their hands. We all know we should budget, but how do we bridge that no-do gap? Secondly, some of the funds, investment funds that you have mentioned, like some of the money market funds or some of the companies, if I may mention, like Cyton, they do promise returns that, for example, 18% per annum. And you can see their billboards promising those kind of returns. A colleague asked me whether it was, I am an accountant, and a colleague did ask me, is it safe to put my money in that place? And my question was to them, I did not give a yes or no answer, but the question was, to get 18% per annum, ask yourself, what is this person doing with that money to earn a return greater than 18% per annum to be able to give something to you? So, do you think it will be a worthwhile investment, or is it too risky? Thank you.
I'll go with the 3, then we come back again. Manyara. The first one was about the cost. One-on-one cost. Coaching and the cost of it.
Okay, thank you very much for those questions. About the cost of the coaching, the one-on-one coaching, that really depends, and that is why for the For the coaching, we usually ask somebody, we usually offer one free coaching session. During that session, we get to listen to each other. So I get to understand what you want to achieve, where you are at, and then I'm able to know the level of support that you'll need. Then I'll be able to tell you how much the fee will be. And at the same time, we are able to understand whether we are a good fit for each other. Like, for instance, if you come to me telling me that you want to invest in a multi-level marketing scheme, I will tell you, I'm sorry, I cannot help you there. If you tell me that you want to invest in a get-rich-quick scheme, I'm sorry, I cannot get involved with such a thing. So we get to understand whether we are a good fit for one another. And then I'll be able to tell you how much the fee will be, and then you'll be able to make your decision based on that. So that will be explained when we meet, and that first meeting is not charged for. Now, education policy. Sorry, I forgot to talk about education as an investment. Insurance as an investment in general. I'm sure those insurance agents come to see you very often. Or at least they try to call you, they try to meet you, and once they've got your name and number, they keep pushing you. And they are very, 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 very persistent, isn't it? They never give up. The truth of the matter is this. That kind of policy which they are trying to sell to you is not simply an insurance policy. It is a mixture of two financial products. One is insurance cover, the other one is investment. And then they are rolled into one. Then they call it an education policy or one of these other kind of policies which promise to give you some money sometime in future. And it looks like a good way to kill two birds with one stone. Protect your family in case you die. At the same time, invest for them. Unfortunately, most times when you try to kill two birds with one stone, what happens? You end up missing both of them. In this case, if you buy those kind of policies, you get a very, very low rate of return. In addition to that, you get very, very low cover, life insurance cover. Why is that? It is like so because of the commissions which are paid to these insurance agents. These insurance agents are paid very, very high commissions. In fact, so high that they make it a top secret that you must never ever know. But I will tell you, and they hate me for this. They are paid for the first year over 40% commission. 40%. So if 40% of your money is going into somebody's pocket, can you be making money? Now that is why I always advise my clients, do not ever allow yourself to be mixed up with a policy which is also an investment. Unfortunately, many of us, because we did not know, and these are the only people who came to us, we have put our money in those policies. Let me tell you one thing. If you have put your money in an education policy, it's better than doing nothing. You're better off than somebody who did nothing. But there is a better way to do it. You see this unit trust which I was talking about? It's simple. Just put your money in that and put a standing order just the way you put in your insurance policy. And when the time comes, you will have much more money than the policy promises you, much more. As far as the aspect of life insurance is concerned, I believe you probably already have life cover at work. If you need more, you can buy more. And life insurance cover by itself, it's very, very inexpensive. But the insurance agents will never let you know that. They will never let you know that there is a life cover which is pure insurance without mixing with investment, because that kind of policy does not give them the commissions that they want. So education policies, if you have it, it's better than if you have done nothing, but there is a better way. Now, those are the ways we discuss with our coaching clients. Yeah. Then the other question was about budgeting. What did you want to know about budgeting? Okay, first let me start with the second one about the unit trust. You are wondering what they can do with the money to give you 18%. Was that the question, or yeah? Okay, first of all, a unit trust is a regulated financial company. It's regulated by the Capital Markets Authority, and all of them are registered with the Capital Markets Authority, so they are listed on the Capital Markets Authority website. Their returns, they have to make returns every year. In fact, they are published in the newspapers. But the Capital Markets Authority is the one which makes sure that the interests of the investors are taken care of. So your money will not be stolen as such. However, depending on which fund you put your money into, you will be taking risk. Like I had said, if you put your money in the money market fund, because they're investing in treasury bills and short-term treasury bonds, the risk is minimal. And it will give you a return of approximately, depending on the performance of the treasury bills, between 8 to 9, 10% there. That will be the money market fund. If you go to the other extreme of the equity fund, the equity fund is based on stocks. Stocks depend on many variables. There will be the performance of the company, the performance which is, it will depend on the company itself and also in the economy. So many things. But a unit trust based on stocks, first of all, is less risky than one stock by itself because it's already diversified among many stocks. Because they don't buy one stock, they buy many companies. So it's already diversified. However, the performance will fluctuate. So if they're telling you 18%, maybe they're telling you only the best aspect. There'll be times when it will be negative. So it might be negative 5%, negative 10% even. But the long-term average will be higher than the returns from the money market fund. But if you take any one short period, you may have spectacular returns, spectacular both in the positive way and also possibly in the negative way. But on average, on the long-term average, it will perform better than the money market fund. What was it about the budgeting?
With budget was the issue of you know you're supposed to budget, but simply you don't get yourself to budget.
Or how can you actually get yourself to do it? The first thing, it begins, first of all, by internalizing. First of all, attending forums like this, reading books, and until you actually internalize that there is really no shortcut. You really have to control your expenses. And then accountability, having an accountability partner also helps. But then the funny thing is, if you've been doing it for some time, eventually it becomes automatic. You don't actually have to follow every cent. You can have just broad categories. Or if you are totally allergic to actually budgeting, you can have the lazy man's budget. And a lazy man's budget goes like this. 30% of my money, unaweka straight to investments. The rest, kula kabisa. That's a lazy man's budget. But that is painful because at times you'll find there are times when you are short of money, and so it pays to actually put it in writing. But it's only the beginning which is difficult. After some time, you get used to it, and it doesn't bother you. Yeah. But you need to start, and for that maybe you need an accountability partner. Thank you. think that, was there another question? There's another question, okay?
Now we go to the second round of questions, and maybe later I'll read whatever is coming on online. So I'll go to my extreme left, I can see a hand there.
First of all, thank you so much for coming here and teaching us about finance. I have been subscribed to your YouTube channel for a while, so thank you for uploading regularly. I really appreciate that. As a college student, I wanted to know what are some of the best investments to get myself started, because my access to finance is obviously not that great, and I'd like to be able to accumulate money now so that I can start looking at the bigger, more diverse investments. And at what point should I consider diversifying? What figure should I be looking at so that I can start diversifying from safe investments? And then also, what ratios should I be looking at in terms of how I divide my money for the lazy man's budget? What ratio should I look at? Because also, my living expenses aren't that great, and I'm fortunate enough to be with my parents, so I don't really need to rely on my own finance that much. So what ratios should I be looking at in terms of how I divide towards savings, towards tax, and towards my own personal expenses? Thank you.
I think when we were speaking, I was thinking about something that the SACCO, and I think this kind of session should even start with the SACCO management first, and specifically the UN SACCO management and the board, because Mr. Manyara can tell you for a fact, come November 20th or 15th, there will be a circular out from Evelyn here telling us to go take part of our dividends, and they will charge us some interest on it. So in terms of also management, I think also the financial institutions should be in the forefront in actually guiding their members, and especially a SACCO. I will not expect a SACCO to put their members actually in a financial distress more than putting them in a financial freedom kind of thing. Because Evelyn, come November or December, she will send me a memo or a circular telling me to go take part of my dividends, I think 50%, and they will charge me to a tune of, I think, 5 or 10%. So this means, even if I was still to reinvest that dividend, I'll be tempted to go and take. So this is just an appeal, not really a question, but an appeal that the financial institutions themselves should be at the forefront in making sure their members actually achieve financial freedom, and especially a SACCO, more than financial distress.
Thank you. Any other question? I think I'll go with Nicholas, then I come back to you.
Yeah, okay. So my question is this. Of late, there's been a lot of talk about forex trading as an investment option. Perhaps you could make some few comments on the same.
Okay, thank you. Behind, then we go for another answers, then we come back again.
Okay, thank you. A number of times I've seen advertisements of somebody can make an investment via greenhouse, then after some period you can get some percentage. Could you please give us an insight on that? And then finally, in as far as the investments with insurance companies are concerned, is there a way through which somebody can exit from an insurance company? Because the last time I did ask, I was given a very long process, which can lead someone to maybe leave a lot of money in an investment company, insurance company, I mean.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Manyara, you can proceed with the question, then we go back again.
Thank you very much. Now, if I could turn the clock back, I would be so happy if I was in that young man's shoes. Because I remember when I was his age, I had all the opportunities, and boy, did I blow them. Actually, I remember, as he was talking, I was thinking about myself. I ended up with a lump sum of money. Because of my work situation, I'd been sent abroad, and my money was accumulating in the bank, and So when I came back, there was a lump sum of money. And my dad didn't know that because I had made sure he doesn't know. But he still suggested, because he saw, like, the way you can see somebody spending money, a lot of money. So he told me, Manyara, why don't you put deposit for a house? I looked at him, I was wondering, what's this boring old man talking about? Oh my goodness. Within 6 months, I had blown all that money. I would have bought a house when I was probably around 22 or something. And that would have been a great start, great financial start in my life. So what he's talking about avenues for investing at his age, that's already a seed, which if he nurtures, he will never lack financially for the whole of his life. So I'm encouraged. Now, to answer your question, a good place to start would be a unit trust. If you go to a place like Zimele Asset Management, go to their balance fund and put in whatever money you have there. And you don't need a lot of money to invest in these unit trusts. People think that to invest you need a lump sum. No, you can even start investing with 1,000 shillings a month. But do it consistently and you'll be amazed what happens in a number of years. So that's a good place to start. And as you go forward, life's demands will show you which way you need to go. Because even now, you might not even be having any well thought out goals, although I stand to be corrected. But then, as you go on in life, you will see clearer what you need to set as your goals. Yeah. But a unit trust would be a very good place, and a place like Zimele, no hidden charges, no hidden tricks, which I can't say for a lot of other organizations. So that's a good place. Now, just because something is offered to you does not mean you have to take it. Right? And that is the whole idea of financial education, so that you know what choices to make. The circle has good opportunities for those who want to get ahead. And those are the ones we should focus on. The ones which are there for the other people, wachana nao. Wakipewa hiyo dividend na wanaambiwa walipe interest, wachana nao wachukue. Wewe mwenyewe usichukue. Si unajua? Because now you begin to change the way you look at things. You do what is good for you. The others, they will always be there. Those are the opportunities to do the wrong things. They will always be there. Pyramid schemes will always be there. Fake investments will always be there. And talking about fake investments, the next two are about fake investments. And that is forex trading. Actually, it's not a fake investment. It's only that it is extremely high risk investing, which needs very high level of skills, and which is totally inappropriate for a low net worth individual. Totally inappropriate. So if somebody is trying to tell you to put their money in forex trade, and you're not an extremely high net worth individual, and you're putting who is putting a small bit of their assets there, forget about it. Don't even think about it. That is not the solution to your financial security. They will talk about it as if it's the greatest thing on earth. And the reason they're talking about it because they're making profits. When you give somebody your money to trade forex on your behalf, for each trade, they get a commission. And this is what happens in most forex accounts for individuals. You give them a lump sum. Suppose you give them 500,000 shillings. They trade with it, they show you how they're making money, then something goes wrong. They're making money. This time they will make a lot of money. But eventually, most of those accounts go bankrupt. So you end up losing all your money. But that person who's trading for you, by the time you have lost all your money, they have made a lot of money from it. Why? Because with every trade, they're getting a commission. So don't go there unless you are a high net worth individual investing a small sliver of your investment there. As for the other investment of greenhouses, whenever somebody is coming to you to make things so easy for you, you should be very, very worried. Now, this guy is telling you, give me your money. I will go and farm for you and give you the profits. Kwani wewe ni nani? Please, don't fall for such things. Don't fall for them. Those are not places you should be basing your financial progress on. The basic, simple investments, I've mentioned them here. Those ones with the financial discipline, and you'll achieve anything you want in this world. But these clever things, especially the more clever they sound, the more tricky they are. Yes. So be very worried about those ones which look like this one. Nitakuwa sawa. Those are the ones to be very careful about. Now, the last question was about insurance. Like I said, insurance, investing in an insurance policy is a tricky prospect. In fact, I usually say those kind of policies are investment traps. Why are they investment traps? They structure it in a way so that getting in is easy, but dare you try to get out, the only way to get out is to lose a lot of money. In fact, the first 2 years or 3 years, if you withdraw, you lose everything. And that's how they keep you in. So the best thing is, first of all, not to get in. But if you're already in, you need to do a calculation. You need to calculate, if I continue with this, how will it end up in the end? Or the second scenario is, if I quit right now, how much will they give me back? Or even if there's nothing, if I continue investing that same amount, if I was contributing 10,000 shillings per month, I move that 10,000 now to something like a unit trust every month. After the same period of time, how much will I have at the end? Will I have recovered my loss, or will I have not? That will give you an idea whether you should cancel it or you should go on with it and accept ulikula mbegu mbaya. And then learn from that so that the next time you don't. And it's good if you're doing it when you're young, because you're probably not putting a lot of money in it in the beginning. I mean, when you're just starting out. But if you do it when you're 50 and you're putting a lot of money there, then things will be difficult. You lose a lot of money by getting out. But that's the, yes.
So is reducing the amount an option? Reducing an amount that somebody is giving, is it an option, a better option now instead of quitting?
It will probably be throwing good money after bad.
I think for insurance, I've tried to calculate with some of the insurance guys, yes, because I deal with figures. And outrightly, when one of the insurance guys I met, I'm now giving a personal experience, yes, we did calculate, and he was telling me, and part of my members, we are in a certain chama, and we did calculate, and actually what we were getting after 10 years was barely, maybe after contributing around 5 million, we were getting around 5.2 or 5.3. So it's really a bad investment for me. If you ask me personally, I did calculate, it's very bad. So you better put this money in something else, but not insurance. Basically, that's what I came to a conclusion. And in insurance, I never want to see them. I take insurance for my car, for my house, Tosha. But the rest of these investments, I call them nothing. Personal opinion, but that's how I stand with it.
That is actually correct. Yeah.
My final question was, in a situation whereby you've decided you are giving 10,000,
yes,
the next year, come a new year, is it possible now, or rather is it now wise to now reduce it to 5 or 3,000?
It will need to be a calculation. You have to calculate how much will they give you so that you can actually make a decision based on the figures, based on facts. Yeah, but chances are they have already calculated and made sure that you don't get out without losing money.
Thank you, Manyara. I think, Evelyn, before I come to...
I'm representing the diaspora group. A number of people have been listening online on the live chat, and yes, they appreciate what you have, the presentation. They say it's very informative, and they have questions. Jessica Mukiri says you mentioned about 6 to 12 months of your income, saving 6 to 12 months of your income, and she asks, what is the pragmatic approach for this? D would want to know how to get your contacts so that you can, she can arrange for one-on-one. And a number of people also want your contacts. Then how do people from diaspora get your book? They would want to have the locked price, special offer price, and they say you need to leave some in the circle for them to purchase.
And maybe just word, there's also a question about rental real estate, whether the SACCO and the board is listening, but I think that one we are listening. Then also maybe to add on Casper's question, not Casper, but there was a question about the 50%, I think it was Casper, dividend. I think these are financial and business institutions, but as we know, not all money available, you run and pick. At times, I think I made a personal opinion or an option 3 years ago after Education Day not to be taking my dividend. And I think for the last 2-3 years or 4 years now, I've really enjoyed 100% dividend in March. So it's a personal opinion, our choice. Any person might have to do, but there are also some members who feel that's also part of their financial planning. Once they get the 50%, maybe it will take them over Christmas period or help them in terms of fee payment. So maybe that's how they plan for their income. So we have different options, but it all depends with how you choose it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I heard about a question about the emergency fund. The estimate I had given is actually between 3 to 6 months. And what you do is you give it a time frame. For instance, you can say that my goal is to have an emergency fund of X amount within 3 years. So for instance, running with that example I had said of having an income of 30,000 shillings, I can say that my goal is to have an emergency fund of 90,000 shillings within 36 months. If I divide that 90,000 by 36, I'll find it's 2,500 per month. And then I go and put a standing order. Remember when I said about paying yourself first? That is by putting those standing orders and salary checkoffs, so that each month that amount is taken from my salary account and it goes to another account where I'm putting money for emergencies. Each month it goes like that. And then when it reaches my target, I stop adding. Now, should I have an emergency, I have a place to go. And remember, an emergency is something unexpected. It's not that you have gone out with your friends and you have run out of money. That's not an emergency. Huh? It's not that schools have opened and you need school fees. No, that's not an emergency. You need schools who are going to open. It's not that Madam is in hospital to get a kid, and you are supposed to have known that. But you have 9 months. Is it 9 or 6? Well, I mean, the first 2 you don't know. So those are not emergencies. But for real emergencies, something unexpected, you will have a place where you can get the money. So between 3 to 6 months, depending on your circumstances. Some people may require up to a year, and especially people whose income is not reliable or they have many responsibilities, those ones may require an even bigger emergency. So that's how to do it, how to structure it. Put a standing order, put in a separate account where you only go when you need that money. My to contact me is very easy. All you need to do is go to my website, and you can get me. My website address is financial-counseling.com. Quite simple. Or if you Google Manyara Kirago, it will somehow lead you there, and you'll be able to get my contact there. And your request for having the book, that one is okay. We can do that, and also we can leave some books with the SACCO. That's not a problem. So I think that those are the questions.
At the special offer of today?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manyara. I think now I would like to close the question and answer session unless there's any burning question. Yes, Abich, then I think that will be the last one.
Mr. Abich, remember, use the prefix. Thank you very much, Honorable Director, and Mr. Manyara, for your insights, although I came in late, but I was able to rope into the conversation. Now, as far as financial freedom is concerned, my basic understanding is when you are able to meet your obligations without a lot of difficulty. Rather, you've put in your savings and you're also able to meet what is accruing, including emergencies, without a hassle. Now that we have the Education Day, and this I'm directing to the board member, directors, together with the management, charity begins at home. And since we are members, bona fide members of the SACCO, I reckon it is imperative for the SACCO to show us how financial freedom they are as an institution, as a joint concern. So that at least when we come in and want to also inculcate that ideology of financial freedom, we should also align ourselves with what the SACCO management is doing as far as financial freedom is concerned. I'm not saying that the SACCO is going down under, but then you should lead by example so that we should not have this never-ending story. Every year, Education Day. Last year, there's another educator. Today, there's another one. We are still in the same mix. That's it. I hope I'm very clear.
Thank you. That's for the board and management to consume. And now I'll take this opportunity to invite the Madam Chair to give us a statement before we can give a vote of thanks and pray. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Aduo. Honorable members, I really want to thank you very, very much. I have a cold, so you must bear with me. But I want to thank you very, very much for being here today, for taking your time on a Friday afternoon, sitting patiently and engaging in a very interesting conversation. I also want to thank the diaspora members and everyone else who's tuned in through the live streaming. I think we are making progress, and we are happy that we can offer different mechanisms for people to be able to engage. So we are listening as a board because members asked that we offer opportunities for them to engage and to tune in. So I'm really happy that we've made that progress today. I'm making very brief comments, given that we are way past 5, and I don't want to keep people too long on a Friday. But I just want to highlight and probably to pick up on the last comment that has been made. One of the things that we are trying to do is to live by the guidelines of SASRA on good governance. And as a board, we owe that to our membership, that we are actually demonstrating and encouraging members to participate so that we have an all-inclusive process of engagement as members of the SACCO, but more so for us as a board and the management to actually demonstrate, good governance of this SACCO. And so one of the recommendations provided for in the guidelines is that the education committees, and for us in the UN SACCO, we have what we call the Business Education Committee that we belong to as part of the board. The responsibility of this committee is critical in identifying and determining education needs of members and the rest of the structures within the SACCO. That is the reason we are here today, because members spoke. If you remember, we actually had a monkey survey that was carried out some times back, not too long ago, a couple of months ago. And we will be sharing some of the findings and what came up from that, that process. But one of the things that came up is that members want to engage more, to learn, to hear, and get different solutions for different things. The second thing that we did, one of the other things that we asked in this survey was, for example, the timing of such processes like the Education Day committee meeting. And one of the things that people suggested, actually the highest was people prefer meetings on Saturday between 10 and 1, and the second was Friday afternoons. So for a beginning, we decided let's have this session, the first one, take place on a Friday afternoon, and we see how that goes, and we can move on to the others. And so why we are here today, and I want to pick up from what the Speaker of the Day has said under the investments pillar. He said, invest in yourself. That's an important aspect of developing yourself. And so take this as a first opportunity, or as one of your other opportunities to invest in yourself. By this, we have learned, I think, quite a couple of things that we were not aware of before, and if we were aware of them, we probably did not have the tools and instruments to enable us to actualize some of the things that we have known in the past. Now, if you look at what the guidelines on good governance mention, is that members should be well informed on the businesses of the SACCO for them to be able to engage. And so we want to continue providing opportunities for us to be clear. What are the do's and don'ts of a deposit-taking entity like ours? How can we better grow and thereby take opportunities to learn, share, and take action on our financial well-being? And I would want to pause and ask, what is our vision? What is our mission as a SACCO? If you reflect on that and you go back to our values, you'll actually see that we are trying to make sure that we offer financial solutions to our membership. Part of this is by what we are doing today. If you're offering financial services, it's not just the loan products that we offer. It's also information on how to take a good loan so that you put it in a good investment. I think those are some of the things that we were learning today. And so for us, it's really trying to actualize what we have stated in our strategic plan, and also what we were, or why we established the UN SACCO. Our vision is to be the financial solution provider of choice. Our mission is to uplift the socio-economic status of our members by offering them high-quality, affordable, and diversified financial services. Read services, not just loans. And so we are hoping that as we keep engaging, we will keep developing ourselves into, better, to be better, stable financially, and to grow ourselves, as has been the topic of the day. And therefore, I want to encourage that we continue to engage in diverse ways. And as stated by most of you through the survey, again, that I have referred to, we want to engage in more open opportunities so that, again, I will use the word, to have a very inclusive SACCO, where our members' voices actually are listened to and we action on what the members see. We promised that we would listen to members. And today I want to make this a rallying call to the membership of the UN SACCO. We are listening, and take this as a platform to continue engaging and providing us with your thoughts and inputs and ideas. And then we also take note of a couple of areas that we want to continually develop and improve on, and to start by acknowledging some of the simple mistakes we make that should not be made. And one good example I want to give by taking responsibility is of the timing we started this meeting today. Some members actually got here before board directors were in place and before the management had settled. It should never be. It should never be. And so I'm stating it very boldly that we have a lot of work to do, both as a board and as management. And so members do accept our apologies. It was a bad start, but I'm happy that we've caught up during the day. Thank you for appreciating that. The second thing that we want to do is to continually improve on our customer relations and have an effective communication plan and a system put in place. Of course, we have a lot of complaints, we have a lot of issues that have not been resolved. Again, we are working at an effective communications strategy and mechanism so that we quickly turn around the members' complaints. Some of the things that are coming up, and I know some of you may be wondering, am I digressing from the purpose of the day? No, I'm not. Education is about everything that we do in our circle, right? And so being able to address customer relations and the issues that are coming up is a critical part of what we do. And we are going to be addressing that on a day-to-day basis, and we are committed to making those changes. So trust that we are working on this. And finally, we are cognizant of the fact that there are a couple of changes that we need to make to ensure members' needs, rights, and expectations are met to the best of our abilities. The speaker for the day made a couple of promises. So this is our promise to you, that we are going to ensure that your needs and rights, and specifically those expectations that can be managed within what is expected of a circle, we should be able to do that as a team. And so we want to thank you for finding time to join us today. We want to encourage you to keep talking to us. We want to thank you for tuning in, those that have tuned in. And we want to say that as you and SACCO, we can only grow bigger and bigger. We can only grow better and better, both as individuals but also as a SACCO. I want to end by thanking you and wishing you a beautiful, beautiful weekend, but to say that we will have other series of education days, and we are looking at the topics. They are dependent on what members are asking for. So we began by this financial perspective because it was core amongst the issues that people have raised. So next time we'll have a different topic depending on what members raise. So thank you very much. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. And we are super happy that you found time to join us. We don't take it for granted. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you once again for having given us this time. Now, I'll ask CEO Jack to give a vote of thanks and pray for us.
Okay. Thank you. I want us to just stand up now and we pray together. First of all is to gratitude to Mr. Manyara. Thank you so much for coming. Madam Chair, other board members. I've seen Madam Frida somewhere. Is she there still there? She's left. Frida sits the SC committee and also my staff. Now, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being patient the whole session. You're welcome. Let's pray. And Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you again this evening. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your protection. As we leave to our various homes, your presence go with us. We thank you till we meet again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Please shake the hand of your neighbor and tell them it was good sitting next to you.
Sitting next to you was so good. Asante sana Jack.
Yeah, look back.
The sun has done this.
Yeah.
This one.
Hi. Hello. Just a second. Yes.
Airtel?
I just send it to M-Pesa, that's it. To the number of M-Pesa.
A number, okay,
Yeah.
you send it to me then. It's
Yes,
your seven,
and then
yeah.
yes. Just me give you a number and they transfer the money to you. What's your name?
Yes. Yes. I'd like him to autograph it for me.
Me too.